Hey, I'm Candace, your host, and if you're ready to grow your business and build your authority by getting booked on podcasts, I've got something special for you. I'm launching a brand new course that will walk you through exactly how to get booked on podcasts. Everything from identifying the right shows to pitching, preparing for interviews, and leveraging your guest appearances for growth. Plus, if you sign up for the waitlist now, you'll get early access to the course and these special bonuses. When you officially enroll in the course, you'll save $50 and get a free one-on-one strategy call with me to help you prep your speaking points and align your offers. These bonuses are limited and end on April 13th, so make sure to sign up today. Head to the link in the show notes to join and get started on your podcast guesting journey. I can't wait to help you get booked and start sharing your message with the world. Now let's dive into today's episode. All right, welcome back to the show, everyone. I have Rebecca Blankenship. She's the owner of Snowdrop Bookkeeping Solutions. It's founded to be a service to entrepreneurs, to partner with them and provide clarity and confidence surrounding their finances. We want those we work with to trust us and allow us to provide insight and helpful guidance that will relieve the feelings of shame or guilt. We know that money sometimes brings complicated feelings, but we are here to present the facts, your numbers, and help guide you with steps to reach your financial goals. So I'm super excited to have you on and hear about your story. Welcome, Rebecca.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Tell me about how you came to your journey and how you came to owning this business.
Yeah, it's a pretty complicated journey. I feel like a lot of people who go into entrepreneurship, it kind of goes in phases, right? So I started, my background education wise is mechanical engineering, and I went into industry for 7 to 8 years. And then I stepped back once I got pregnant with my daughter and had her, and realized I wanted to be more intentional with my time, as raising her was more important than my current job that I was in. And through that journey, it led me to a desire to help others that were in small business. It was over several years, like a couple of years, and ultimately I ended up miscarrying. And that's the reason why Snowdrop Bookkeeping is named that. I miscarried. My second child was due in February, and usually after, like, the flower that blooms first after a harsh winter is a snowdrop flower. And that was when I was due. And so this company was kind of founded in a really dark season leading up to it. And then it was just like, this was just a way for me to pour into something that I knew was going to make a difference in other people's lives. And so that's kind of how it was born. I've been in business for a little over 4 years. I have slowly grown. I had 2 small kiddos, and now I have a little bit more capacity to serve my clients. So I'm starting to grow a little bit more intentionally. It's a blessing to find something that you enjoy doing and that pours into others and that it makes a difference. And you can actually see the difference. Whereas a lot of times, entrepreneurship is a long journey. It's a long and sometimes really isolating journey, depending on your community around you. And so a lot of times, I think, especially as women, we are a little bit more hesitant to step out and take risks and or feel confident in our decision making. And that's where community comes into, and just those partnerships, strategic partnerships with others that can help support us in the journey and try to make it a little bit less lonely.
Yes.
Shouldn't be lonely, right?
Yes.
It should be something that, bonds us and connects us together, because we love community. I mean, that's what we're made for, is to be in community. So
yeah, so many things about that to touch on. One, isn't it wild how having kids just really gives you that gut check of, where do I want my time to be spent?
Yes.
I remember not really giving it much thought at all until that first baby came. And then it was like, whoa. It just really, puts it in your face.
Yes, I agree. And I was working in management. I had a big team. I was working long hours, sometimes on the weekends, depending on the time of the month. And it was good in that season because we were double income, no kids. We were traveling. We were building our marriage and enjoying time with each other. And then the next season came, and it was a challenge. Thankfully, we were in a financial position, and we prayed, and we knew that this is where I should be, was to stay at home. And I know that that's not an option for a lot of people. And so I felt like I just knew that I would regret it if I didn't step out and do it. I mean, it's a lot to leave consistent income behind, but had I not done that, I would not be where I'm at today. Because it's stepping out of your comfort zone. And like you said, that gut check, it's like, know that you're not, like, this season has ended, meaning like this, whatever you're in, is like, it's coming to an end. And you realize, like, you would not have left that comfort for anything else. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
ultimately I would not have left that job because it was really good money. It was
Mm-hmm.
very stressful.
Yeah.
But, it's almost like, we're ingrained to be like, if you've got a good job and good benefits, then it has to be a really good reason to step away from that.
Yes.
I feel like we don't put enough emphasis on the gut check. When it's time to move on to something
Yes.
else, and you just have that feeling, and we just need to be more confident in taking that next step, knowing that this other season is closing. Because if we stay on, we're doing a disservice to ourselves, but I feel like to the other people too around us, because we're not going to be passionate about it. We're not going to feel in alignment with who we
Mm-hmm.
are. And so our work is going to show that. All of our relationships will show that as well.
Oh man, I hear you. I searched for a better or a good, I'm doing like air quotes, a reason to leave my teaching job for 3 years because I'm
Yep.
like, I can't just tell people that it's just a feeling I have
Yep.
that there's something else for me. For me, the next doors that were going to open for me, they weren't really revealing themselves. And I wish that they would have before I left. Doesn't make sense in my head to leave and not know exactly what happened next, not know what I'm leaving for. I just know that it's time, like you were talking about. So I resonate with that a lot. Do you think for you and for just everyone in general, is it more often that we don't get to see those doors opening until we've kind of stepped into that next season?
Yes, I agree. So I left my job when I ended up going back to work. I told my husband I'd go back to work and try it out and see
Mm-hmm.
after she came, and I went back for about 4 months. And it was confirmation that it was not, it's not the right move. And so I put my notice in, and I stepped back, and I would stay at home mom until just that for about a year. And I knew I wasn't all I was supposed to do. Not that being at home with your
Right,
child
right.
is not a job. Don't get me wrong. And I don't want to minimize that at all, because it is.
Yes.
But I felt the pull of something else. Like I
Mm-hmm.
knew I was meant to do something else too. I could do both, even though it wasn't easy, right? And I felt like I'm a better person, a better mom, a better wife, a better friend, daughter, all of those roles and relationships when I feel fulfilled. And if I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't feeling completely fulfilled in that role, only that role, then I knew that there was something else I needed to do. But I wanted the flexibility, and I didn't have that in my corporate job. And
Mm.
also, I realized that I didn't want to just work for somebody's company that I
Yes.
couldn't see that my efforts made a difference. Because, you were talking about perspective shift. If I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to take away time from being with my daughter or my
Mm-hmm.
son, I have a son now after the miscarriage. I have 2 kids now here on earth. If I'm taking time away from them, it has to be intentional, right? And it's not to do something that I'm not passionate about or I feel like I'm making a difference, because thankfully I have that time, the flexibility and the support at my house. Like my husband is so supportive, and I expressed to him my feelings, prayed about it. Obviously God gave him the, peace about it. He didn't I mean, it's like a huge step. And a part of that story that I really didn't, talk about too much is I lost my child. We were pregnant. I was early loss. It was like 11 weeks. 2 days before that, my husband lost his job. So
Oh,
our only breadwinner of our house, lost his job. And then 2 days later, I went through a miscarriage, which, obviously, so
that's
we
a
were
lot.
both struggling. We
Yeah.
had 2-year-old at home. I could have gone back and gotten just any job
Mm-hmm.
because out of fear, right? Fear that we wouldn't have the financial means to continue. However,
Right.
we had an emergency fund. My husband had, we have been working on a budget. We were very intentional with our spending at that time. And so we had flexibility. We had that time to be able to determine the right move for him. And then also, like, I spent some money and investment into a course and like my education about bookkeeping in that time too. So we didn't have any income coming in, but I was taking money out to invest in myself, because that's how, looking back on it, like it's just crazy to think about it, because it doesn't even make sense. It makes absolutely no sense. But I can only say I'm a believer, so I can only think that it was led by God, because he put that course and these thoughts and
Mm.
path, really, he revealed it to me in that really dark season. And I literally I poured everything I could into that, because I was so sad that I was like, I have to do something, because I can't sit around and do nothing, right?
Right.
And had I not put that effort and time into that, I don't know where I would be. I would probably be back in corporate at this point, honestly.
Right.
And There's nothing wrong with corporate. I keep on saying that. There isn't.
Yeah.
If that's where you feel like you're making the biggest difference, because trust me, there are people that need great leadership and great community in those places as well. It's just that I think as you get older, what you think you're going to do or where you think your path is going to lead, it's just never that way,
Yeah.
right? And it's
Yes.
good because it means we're growing. It means we're
Yes.
growing and we're coming out of our comfort zone. I never thought I'd be a business owner, first of all. And I never thought that I would be able to literally every day that I talk to my clients, literally see their body change. They go from like tense and worried and just upset and anxious to, okay, we have a plan. And you can slowly start to see them to put down the wall and realize like it's not as dire of a situation as they think it is. Or
Yeah.
they just build this up in their head. And I just can't put into words exactly how much that means to me because it really propels me. Like, I love what I do. And I don't think a lot of people can say that. You know, a lot of people buy into this, like, I have to do X, Y, and Z because that's what the world tells me I have to do, right? Or that's the way our economy is set up. But honestly, the economy is set up on small businesses. If we didn't have small business, who knows what America would be like. So we need those people that serve others. And then it's not just to make money, right? It's like, what are you providing? What service or product are you providing that makes a difference in the world and not just selling something just to make money kind of thing.
Right.
And then if you do what you love, I mean, it's not work. I mean, there's aspects of work, obviously, but I just never thought I'd be in this place. And it's been amazing. It's like just crazy to think how much your life can change in 4 years. 4 years sounds like a long time, but it flies by because I can't believe it's been 4 years. I'm sure you feel that way as a parent, right? You look at your kids and you're like, what? What happened?
Right. So how did you make that jump into the bookkeeping thing? That is quite different than corporate and engineering. How did you notice that nudge? And then why did you follow it?
The reason why I even looked into bookkeeping was the flexibility to be able to work virtually and not have to be in an office. I could work on the hours that my kids were napping or at nighttime when they were asleep. Low overhead, honestly. It wasn't as much of an investment up front, except for the education aspect, right? But outside of that, I really needed the software in my computer and I could kind of work from anywhere, which was really appealing to me with a small kid. At that time, I only had my oldest, but I was hoping to have more and I didn't know what that looked like. However, I wanted to, even more so after the miscarriage, I wanted to be as present as possible and wanting to not wish the time away because I feel like I didn't know if I was going to have another one. Right. And so this could be my only season of that, you know, young toddlerhood. And it was that first. And then I've always been really interested in numbers, good with numbers. I love numbers. It just my language, right? That's just what how I work, how my brain is. The transaction side of things, I look at as a puzzle and so a problem solving. So everything I learned in my education in college, really not everything, but a good chunk of the problem solving breakdown applies to what I'm doing now and trying to find the best solution for that particular client, how to maintain their books consistently, but also ensuring that there's no errors and how can we streamline it. All of those things are, and especially people, a lot of come to me and they haven't done their bookkeeping in months, right? And they're filled with shame or they're like, oh, you're going to judge me. I'm sorry, it's so bad. They're just so apologetic. And I'm like, don't apologize to me. It's like one of my favorite things to do. I think it's like a big puzzle. It's like a Tetris puzzle to me. I love it. You know, I think people think I'm crazy, but I do. I really do. I see things all the time. I just feel like I think people, because it's their books and they're personally attached to them. They're not my numbers, but I don't personally attach like emotion to them. I care because you're my client or potential client. However, I don't have that emotional attachment to it. So it's fun for me. It's like it's a puzzle. Whereas like I definitely have emotional attachment to my finances, my own finances. So I understand the feeling, especially if they're not where you want it to be. Right. And I think we all go through seasons of not as much of abundance as we would like, or, you know, a little bit of more of a cushion than we would like in case there's something that comes up. And I think it's cyclical. It's not always going to be that way. But in those times, it can be really stressful. And money is one of the biggest drivers of anxiety, especially in a marriage, just because you have to have it to live, right? You can't not have it. And so when you don't have as much as you want or desire or need, you're less likely to put yourself out there into situations discussing it because you just want to hide it because it's not where you want it to be. You're less likely to present it.
Since you're in that finance space, how do you know when it's time to worry about the finances and how do you know when it's just time to take a leap? And trust that it's going to be there. I was waiting for my side hustle at the time.
network marketing business to match my teaching income, but it never quite got there. And so then it was like, okay, so I'm either going to use this as an excuse never to leave, or I'm going to figure something else out. We looked at our finances. We didn't have any debt. We just had our house payment is all we had left. And we had a good security fund or whatever you called it.
Emergency fund.
Emergency fund. There you go. And took the leap. But sometimes I don't want people to just blindly go and then get themselves in a real sticky situation. So what do you use as kind of a guidance for your own self?
I think side hustle is a really good term to use in regards to like if your idea is profitable or not. And I know I like the book Profit First, and I'm sure you've heard of it, but if you haven't read it, you really should, especially if you're thinking about creating a business, because it really focuses on getting yourself started off correctly on the right foot, which means paying yourself if you're going to have a business. Like it doesn't need to be a hobby. If you're wanting to step away from your full-time job to do it full-time, and you have a full-time job now that's secured, you want to be intentional about using that time and give yourself timeline. I'm going to invest X number of hours for X number of months to determine if this is profitable or not. And if it is, even if it's not to the level that I have currently in my current job, then I'll step away at this date. And I would just give yourself a guideline, like a deadline, because like you said, you can always push it back right, because it's uncomfortable, right? Mm-hmm. And I really suggest if you're in a marriage or you have a partner, bringing them alongside that vision and that goal, because having that support system to ask those hard questions and or just do an evaluation that's not just you and your emotional attachment to it. Right. And you're seeing the actual numbers, and that's the facts, right? You can think about something or you feel something, but in reality, if it's profitable or not, it's very cut and dry. It's the numbers, right? The numbers don't lie. Well, I mean, they can lie if you manipulate them, but I mean, the main numbers don't lie. And so you can see whether or not a business is going to be profitable, probably in the first few months. And then you make that decision of, do I want to do this full time, or do I want to just slowly scale it up and maybe leave in a few years because there's something at work that you want to reach a goal? And then also I really suggest not having debt. We were the same way. We didn't have any debt except for a house payment, and we had emergency fund. We had 3 to 6 months of living expenses, which we lived off of. Thankfully, my husband also got a severance package from his work because it was more of a restructure. It wasn't like he got fired. He just restructured, and he was the first one in, which means he was the first one out. So we were able to have that cushion to make that decision and not feel, because you make different decisions when you feel pressured or you feel like you don't have the bandwidth or the financial resources to give it the time it needs. And that leads me to the next point is I would not borrow money to open up your business. I would say either save the money for it and make the owner's investment into it. You can get capital for your business, but leaving it, like raise capital for it, but leave it in a separate account. You actually need it, because that's why I think a lot of those small businesses go under, because they have a great idea, but they're not knowledgeable about their finances, because that's not why they went into business. I did, because that's what I do for a living. However, someone who has an idea, they don't think about the financial aspects. They're just excited about their vision. And if you don't know your numbers, you're significantly more likely to overextend yourself and then go under because you have not set yourself up for success from the beginning. That's like the number one thing I would suggest is read Profit First. Because Profit First, it gives you a mindset of like what's the ideal situation about the percentages of where you should be spending your money. And so it gives you a starting place. Give you something to measure up to determine if it is profitable and or scalable, or if it's even something you want to do, because then it gives you that chance to like try it out without giving the full risk over to yourself. But there might be situations where you just need to step away because it's not a healthy work environment. And if so, I would still follow the same process, but you probably be even more intentional about where you spend your money, because you don't want to overextend yourself because you don't have that extra income coming in from your job.
Are you an entrepreneur looking to start or grow your business while feeling supported and seen every step of the way? Join the Align Business Collective, the monthly membership I co-host with Andrea Hansen and Brittany Williams, designed for entrepreneurs like you. This is your space to connect, learn, and build a business that truly works for you, while we hold you accountable with our weekly calls and on-demand coaching. Head to the link in the show notes to learn more and join today.
We kind of keep touching on some more of your expertise here.
Yeah.
Is there like a common mistake or issue that people come to you and you see over and over?
One is they're mixing business and personal. So they don't have a separate checking account for business or separate credit card for business. And that just opens up yourself wide open for audits if you were to get audited, and potential back pay of taxes if you can't justify your expenditures are just for business versus could be personal. If you can't keep that very clear, you're setting yourself up. You just are. And it's scary because a lot of people don't have the greatest records, and it just get yourself into a potential issue. So that's like number one. That's like one of the biggest flaws that I see, that it's just an easy fix. It's just do it, right? So getting in that habit and not using, I mean, one or two times it makes sense if like you didn't realize your card was connected or you forgot to do this or whatever, that's fine as long as it's justifiable. But if it's consistent usage and mix of personal and business, it calls into question the whole account. And then also not knowing your expenses. A lot of people think that they have, I don't know, half of what they actually going out of their account. And so people wait until tax time to do all of their expenditures for the year, which is fine, except for that, you can't make changes if you don't know what you're spending and what your income is coming in and what you need to change, because you're waiting until the end of the year to do it all. You're not going to glean any information from that except for, oh, I should have not purchased X, Y, and Z this year because I really didn't have the income. I should have done it next year. Well, it's a little too late at that point because it's already done, right? And then also not saving enough for taxes. So in Profit First, it mentions also about taking money. Like if you were at corporate America and you had your checks taken out, they're paying your taxes for you on your behalf. Well, as a small business owner, you're just kind of flying by the seat of your pants a lot of times, right? Unless you're an S Corp and you're on your own payroll. But starting out, a lot of people aren't doing that. And so they wait, and then at the end of the year, they're getting hit with a huge tax bill, because if you're not S Corp, you're actually getting taxed on, your overall income, like your revenue, but then also what you're actually taking out of the business. So it's not double tax, but I mean, it is in a way, and it's getting put on your normal Schedule C. So it's a really tough concept, and it's hard because taxes are difficult to know and navigate, and it changes every year. And that's why I do not do taxes, but I suggest partnering with, someone that you trust that is a tax preparer, especially at the beginning of your business, to try and estimate as much. Once you have been in business for a little bit, estimate your taxes and put away even just the minimum average. I say 15%. That's what industry average to put away. So that way at the end of the year, you're not going into debt to pay the taxes on what you've already sold, because then you're going into the next year already behind. And it's just this cycle that a lot of businesses never get out of. And that's what they end up going bankrupt, because they don't have a system in place. It's just like in your personal budget, you go into debt. It's really hard to get back out of it.
Right.
It's just like every extra amount of money you're trying to throw at it. So then you get behind on the other things that you need to do. And it's just this cycle. So yeah, those are like the three things that I see the most. And also just shame associated with finance, or like afraid to ask the questions, or you think that your books are horrible, or you think your financial situation is so much worse than everyone else, but in reality it's not. And I also like to mention, a lot of people talk about, 6-figure business, 7-figure business, whatever. That's like top line. That's not after. Like, that's not what they take home, and people don't talk about how profitable a business is. They talk about how much revenue they have, which is what's coming into it, but they don't talk about how well they are managing that. So it's like, I don't really care if you make 6 or 7 figures, but what are you actually taking home? Because that's more impressive to me, because that means that your numbers, how much, expenses you have, you're monitoring your profit margins, like you're making those adjustments to try and maximize that, instead of just, willy-nilly going back and forth and just, not having a budget or not stewarding your finances well, making an impact. I also feel like people are realizing that money does make a difference in your life. Yes, like you could buy from big box stores all you want, and that's fine. That's not a big deal. I mean, I buy from big box stores, but like when you support small businesses, like you actually make a difference in someone's lives.
Gosh.
Like,
yeah.
And they're a little bit more expensive sometimes, right? But that person is like, that pays for that kid's soccer
Exactly.
fee, or that allows them to buy insurance for their family for that month. I am a part of really awesome community here in Raleigh that's called the locality. It's like a co-working space, but it's in the back of a store that's literally all they do is partner with other small businesses that are making a difference and making an impact. Every purchase you make makes an impact. You know it. I would much rather spend maybe a few extra dollars to know that my money's going somewhere than to just like, who knows, in the abyss of Amazon or Target or Walmart or, like you name it, and that's okay to shop at those places, like I said. But as an entrepreneur or small business, your perspective shifts because know how much the overhead is on spaces like brick and mortars. You know how much it costs to run a business because you know your numbers.
Right.
So then
how much
you're
it costs
more
to
likely
ship things and all
the taxes, the fees. Finding those people that are not just for the money. And like women's intuitions, the biggest, I mean, we have to trust our gut more, and we know when something doesn't sit well, and so we shouldn't support that if we don't align with that. You should support the people and the things that you align with.
Amen. How would someone know that they need your services?
That's a good question. So I think if they don't feel confident in them, or it brings them anxiety and they just don't do them, that's probably an indicator that you need someone to assist you. Because if you want to be in business and make an impact and be where you're at for long term, you really have to be intelligent about your finances, because that's the driving factor of whether or not you're going to be successful. And you can look at all the stats in SBA if you want about how many people closed down, how many businesses closed down in the first 5 years, and then how many more closed down in the first 10 years. And it doesn't mean that you don't pivot. You have to really hone in on what is your break-even point, those things, looking at someone, giving some perspective from the outside in, because you are emotionally attached. You're less likely to see those areas that need to be reined in a little bit more, and or spend more in certain categories too, that it's okay. Giving yourself permission to invest in yourself or your business. Yeah. So that's the first indicator. And then also it's just, if you do it, you don't mind doing it, but you just don't have the time. Your time is better spent in your business or working on your business or growing a different sector of your business, those kind of things. And I also encourage people, you don't have to invest in a bookkeeper straight off. I think you can keep track of your finances in an Excel spreadsheet. You don't have to have QuickBooks, which is what I work mainly. Because a lot of people think, oh, well, I have to have all these expenses at first. Well, no, you can be very diligent about trying to have the minimal overhead at first. And then as you grow and you need to hone in on those things, the QuickBooks helps to give you a little bit more data and also prepare you better for tax time and give you those financial reports that are needed for when you need to have funding, or if you want to sell your business, or if you want to bring on a partner or any of those things. Those financials reports are going to be needed at that point. So that's when I suggest looking at it. And to kind of go off that, I said I don't do taxes. I suggest you partner with a tax provider, but that doesn't have to be a CPA. You just have to find someone that's an enrolled agent that you trust that can file your taxes. Not every CPA will file your tax. They don't file taxes. And but every enrolled agent with IRS can file. So whether they're just an EA, which is an enrolled agent, or if they're an accountant. So they're not all interchangeable with that terminology, because I think a lot of people are like, well, I have to have a CPA and they're so expensive. Well, no, you don't have to have a CPA. You can use a CPA if you want to, but getting that tax advisory, it is good to invest in someone instead of just trying to do it yourself, because it will work for the first few years. You're probably missing out on some deductions because you're not as knowledgeable about the tax code for that year. It's just like any other software. They're not going to know every aspect of yourself. They're going to ask you questions, but it's a program. It's not a person.
Is there anything else you want to add before I ask my last question?
Ultimately, trusting your gut, and then also realizing that the decisions you make today don't have to be the end all decision, right? What feels right in the season, try it out and go for it. And then if it changes, that's okay to change. And people call it pivoting. There's a lot of terminology for that. Giving ourselves more grace than I feel like we're our own worst enemy, and the things that we tell ourselves, the lies we tell ourselves. Get yourself in community. That's really important. And people that you can trust to be vulnerable with, because it can be very lonely, but it doesn't have to be lonely. And giving yourself that space to invest in yourself, but also invest other people, it will make the journey of going through entrepreneurship so much more fun, because you are a part of something bigger. And also you can speak into other people's lives as they speak into yours. And so that a really special opportunity that we don't always get. And I think we just take that for granted.
Well, I was going to ask you what message you wanted the listeners to take away today, but I think you nailed that. So tell us where we can find you if we're like, ooh, maybe I want some help with my books.
My website's www.snowdropbookkeeping.com. That's probably the easiest way to contact me because there's a form on there and it sends me and we can get you on a Calendly link. And I do a free discovery call for 30 minutes if you just want to talk and see if this is what you need. I don't it's free because not everyone needs my services or it's not a good fit for any reason. And so I don't want to take money if it's not going to be a good fit, right? So and that's where we kind of talk about the services that I provide. I also have a Facebook page, but honestly, I'm not really I consume social media. I'm not as present on social media at the moment. Doesn't mean it won't change, but I just find that it's just very draining for me to do it myself, but I love watching everyone else. So I do have a Facebook page. I'm also, you could just Google me and you can see some reviews there too on Google. But ultimately, I just want anyone to feel comfortable. That's my mission, is for people to feel comfortable and more open to talk about their finances and not be consumed by the what ifs or comparison to others. That everyone's journey is different and it's okay to not be where someone else is because that's just not where you're supposed to be. And it's okay that everything that happens in financial side of things can be turned around as long as you have a game plan. It's not so far gone as a lot of people say. Just being encouraged with that. And thank you so much for having me. And
this was fun.
Share my story and share what I'm passionate about. I've not had a lot of opportunities, but recently I've had some more, and I didn't realize how much I enjoy talking.
Oh, I can tell you have been smiling this whole time. So I can just see how passionate you are about this, but I love it because I think people do sit in and dwell on their finances and think they're just in this horrible doom pile that they can't get out of. And I mean, I know from experience, as soon as you tell someone or you go ask for help, you get a different perspective. It's just more manageable and it lifts that cloud. And so I think that's what you're doing. And it's such a common thing for people to be just floundering in. So I love that. So people can meet with you virtually, right? We don't have to be neighbors to meet. Yep.
Correct. Okay. I serve everyone around the United States. So I have mainly a Central and East Coast. I am based in the East Coast, but I have worked with other people on West Coast too. But primarily, I work East Coast hours, obviously. But virtually we meet over, Zoom, or I send Loom videos to go over stuff. And I'm usually pretty, available because I like to be available for my clients and not feel like they have to get on a huge wait list.
Well, I will link all that in the show notes for our listeners. And just thanks again. All right, to listeners, have a better brave day.
Thanks for tuning in. If you're ready for podcast mentoring, whether it's setup, editing, planning, or guesting, you can book a one-on-one call with me through the link in the show notes. I hope you feel seen, inspired, and like your dreams and goals are completely valid, because they are. See you next Tuesday.